Let's go to Japan, where the Fukushima nuclear crisis is still causing serious heartache. The country's nuclear safety agency has more than doubled its estimate of the radiation in the atmosphere in the wake of the March earthquake and tsunami. There are serious questions hanging over the company that runs the Fukushima plant, TEPCO. It's Japan's largest utility, but it has a long history of cover-ups. While the company says the Fukushima accident was triggered by the natural disaster, critics and insiders say incompetence and negligence made things worse. Tonight we'll hear from a former TEPCO engineer who's spoken exclusively to 7:30 about the cover-ups and collusion he witnessed. The ABC's North Asia correspondent Mark Willisey reports from Fukushima.
Toshio Kimura has long revelled in the power of the waves. These days, the sea is his refuge, away from the horrors of Fukushima.
I escaped as far away as I could to avoid the radiation. I've been surfing for 30 years, and now I worry the sea is contaminated.
For 12 years, Toshio Kimura worked at the Fukushima No. 1 plant, helping to monitor and control the reactor cores. He was a member of the TEPCO family, educated and employed by the Tokyo Electric Power Company, Japan's biggest supplier of nuclear energy. But Toshio Kimura asked too many questions.
I asked my boss back in the late 90s what would happen if a tsunami hit the Fukushima reactors. I said, surely a meltdown will happen. He said, Kimura, you are right. But it was made clear that the issue of a big tsunami was taboo. A few years later, I quit the company because of its culture of cover-ups.
On March the 11th, the tsunami Toshio Kimura long feared slammed into the Fukushima plant, causing the worst nuclear accident since Chernobyl. But many believe human folly was as much to blame for the meltdown as the giant waves.
What you see is the real cause of the meltdown, is the failure of the cooling systems, and that has definitely been attributed to the human error and to the technological failure.
If they'd moved the emergency diesel generators to a position above the expected tsunami level, it would have cost the company a lot, so nobody proposed it.
In an interview with 7:30, TEPCO insisted it was prepared for a tsunami, just not one 14 metres high.
We imagined a maximum 5.7 metre high tsunami would hit the plant.
Why didn't you change your modelling for your maximum tsunami height after you found out that scientists had known that huge tsunamis had been hitting the coast for thousands of years?
I think you're referring to the big tsunami in the 9th century. We are about to examine how we should assess that tsunami.
Hidetoshi Matsumoto is a second-generation beef farmer from Fukushima. He and his family have had to evacuate because his property is just 21 kilometres from the crippled nuclear plant. But he still makes the 3-hour round trip every day to come back and feed his beloved cattle. Here in Fukushima, other than agriculture, TEPCO was by far the biggest employer. But a company that was once regarded as a champion of industry is now denounced around here as a wrecker of homes and livelihoods and a symbol of corporate greed and cover-ups.
I can never forgive TEPCO. They've deprived us of our home in which we have lived for many years. They've deprived us of our memories, our life, our earnings, everything at once. I cannot calm my anger.
And some independent monitors believe this disaster is approaching Chernobyl standards, with communities outside the evacuation zone registering unsafe radiation levels.
The levels of radiation on the streets, on the public spaces, the playgrounds, the parks are several times higher than what even the Soviets considered to be necessary to trigger the evacuation.
TEPCO is a company with a history of cover-ups. 10 years ago it concealed cracks in reactor facilities, then a few years later it falsified data on its nuclear plants. But the company insists that this culture is all in the past and did not contribute to the disaster at Fukushima.
There was certainly a cover-up in 2002. We've reflected on our past conduct very deeply, and we have worked to change our ethics and to become more transparent.
But this is a country where collusion reigns. Here, the nuclear regulator is run by the Industry Ministry, the country's chief promoter of nuclear energy.
When officials from the Nuclear Safety Agency or the Ministry came to the plant for inspections, they were entertained with drinks the night before. Then they would inspect the plant and give it a 100% pass mark. Then on the way home, the inspectors were given beer and snacks and taxi vouchers.
I don't know about that, so I cannot comment.
TEPCO's top brass has now embarked on a sorry tour, apologising to nuclear evacuees now living in crowded shelters. It hasn't gone down well.
The Japanese society and the institutions should have learned from the past already, because, as I'm saying, this is the case number 4, number 5 of cover-ups and lies that TEPCO was organising.
The sea has always been a provider for the Japanese, and while it provides pleasure for Toshio Kimura, the former nuclear engineer believes its power needs to be respected.
All nuclear plants should stop operating until they're prepared for the next earthquake and tsunami. That's my message.
Mark Willesee reporting from Fukushima.